My husband cheated multiple times and claimed plenty of women wanted him, so I left without a word. Now he's outside my doorstep, desperately begging me to come back because I'm finally marrying a man who treats me like I'm irreplaceable. So I'm sitting here at 3 a.m. unable to sleep. Figured I might as well type this stuff out. Never thought I'd be sharing my personal crap on Reddit, but here we are. Maybe writing this will help me process everything that happened. Me, 32 female, and Eric, 30 male. We're together since our early 20s. Met at my friend's house party. He was this gorgeous blonde who laughed at my stupid jokes. Honestly couldn't believe he actually gave me his number. The first few years were great. Staying up talking about random stuff, weekend trips, wherever we could afford gas money to get to. Inside jokes that made absolutely no sense to anyone else. Proposed after 3 years and had a small wedding at this lake spot. Nothing fancy, just people we actually cared about. Eric wore this simple suit that made him look incredible. First couple years of marriage were pretty good. We had this tiny apartment that always had something broken. Landlord was useless. Talked about maybe going to Italy someday, starting a family once we weren't broke all the time. I was building my landscaping business from nothing, just me. A truck that broke down every other week and some basic tools. Eric was actually really supportive back then. He'd help me figure out the accounting stuff, bring me lunch when I was working on bigger jobs, even help design some flyers and business cards. Even when I was completely exhausted from digging trenches and hauling rocks all day, I always tried to make time for him. Random date nights at places we could afford, little stuff I'd pick up when it reminded me of him, weekend trips to nearby spots. Nothing expensive, but I wanted him to know he mattered. You know? I can remember exactly when everything started changing. Eric's cousin Victor moved to our city for some job opportunity. Victor, 28 male, was basically Eric's opposite. Super loud, constantly partying, always posting these thirst trap photos on Instagram, and had this attitude like he was the main character in some TV show or something. Never had a girlfriend for more than a couple months, but always had girls buying him drinks and taking him to fancy restaurants. At first, I didn't really care that Eric was hanging out with him. Family's important. Right? But then I started noticing these little changes. Eric started dressing different, more revealing stuff that he never wore before. His Instagram started changing too. More posed photos, weird facial expressions, mysterious captions. He even started talking different around Victor using slang I'd never heard him say before, laughing way louder than normal, just different. One night after they went out for guys' night, Eric came home a bit tipsy, and I overheard him still talking to Victor on the phone in the bathroom. I know. Right? Did you see how many girls were checking me out? He was giggling like a teenager. No. Rachel doesn't mind. She's just happy I'm having fun. I pretended to be asleep when he came to bed. Maybe I should have said something then, but something told me to just watch what was happening for a while. Over the next couple months, Eric started being really weird with his phone. Changed his password, always putting it face down, taking calls in another room. When I'd ask who he was talking to, it was always just Victor or just work stuff. He was going out way more too. Guys' nights that would go till, like, 2 to 3 a.m., weekend shopping trips with Victor, where he'd come back with hardly any actual shopping bags. I was starting to feel like I was living with a stranger. The Eric I married didn't care about getting attention from random girls or staying out all night. The Eric I married actually wanted to spend time with me, asked about my day, cared about what I was doing. This new Eric barely noticed if I was even home. I tried to fix things. One night, after another long workday, I picked up his favorite takeout and grabbed some flowers on the way home. Nothing fancy, just a simple gesture to remind him I was still here, still trying. But when I walked into the apartment, the place was empty. No note, no text, just silence. I set the food on the counter, sat at the table, and waited. An hour passed, then 2. I checked his location. Out downtown again. Eventually, I gave up, ate alone, and put the flowers in the trash. When he finally came home, laughing at something on his phone, he barely even glanced at me. "Oh, you're still up," he said, kicking off his shoes. I wanted to ask if he even noticed I was trying, if he cared at all, but I already knew the answer. We stopped even having conversations. When we did talk, it was mostly him talking about his cousin's latest adventures or some work drama. He stopped asking about my business even though I was finally starting to get some bigger clients. One day, I landed this huge contract with this commercial office park. Biggest job I'd ever gotten. The kind that could really put my company on the map. When I told Eric, he barely looked up from his phone. "That's nice, babe," he said, scrolling through Instagram. I'd been working my ass off for years to get to that point, and he couldn't even pretend to care for 5 seconds. One night, I was in the kitchen making coffee while Eric was getting ready to go out again. He walked in dressed in something way flashier than what he used to wear. Tight red shirt, shoes fancy enough to make my ankles hurt just looking at them, gold hoop earrings that Victor probably picked out. I looked up from the sink and gave him a once-over. "Damn. Where's the fire? I joked, trying to keep it light. He did a little spin. Like it? He asked, grinning at himself in the fridge reflection more than at me. I mean, yeah, but you didn't used to dress up like this just for drinks with Victor. He shrugged, checking his phone. Maybe I'm just realizing I don't have to dress boring anymore. Victor says I should show off what I've got. I dried my hands and leaned against the counter. Victor says a lot of things. Eric smirked, locking his phone and slipping it into his tiny bag. Well, he's not wrong. You know, you're pretty lucky, Rachel. Plenty of girls wish to have a husband who looks like this. I was fucking confused. Who says that to their wife? I raised an eyebrow. Yeah? Good thing I married you before you figured that out. He just laughed, but it wasn't his usual laugh. It was different. Like, he actually believed what he was saying. He walked over and said, "Don't wait up." I stood there for a long time after he left, staring at the door, feeling something I couldn't quite put my finger on. I started to pull back a little, not trying so hard, not rushing home early to see him, not suggesting date nights or bringing home little surprises. I wanted to see if he'd notice, if he'd start putting in some effort. He didn't. If anything, he seemed relieved that I wasn't bothering him as much. His job at this marketing company was going well. He'd gotten a promotion, was making better money than me for a while, started talking about all these work dinners and client events he had to go to, always got super dressed up for these work things. Sometimes he'd come home with his makeup all messed up or his hair looking crazy. "It's windy outside," he'd say, in the middle of summer at midnight. I'm not stupid, but I kept telling myself I was being paranoid, that Eric wouldn't do that to me, that maybe this was just some weird phase he was going through. But deep down, I was starting to suspect the worst. One day, I was fixing our kitchen sink when his phone buzzed on the counter, so I glanced over. It was a text from Victor. "Delete your texts with Danielle." Or might see, who the hell was Danielle? I put the phone down, my heart racing. When Eric came, I tried to act normal, but watched as he grabbed his phone immediately, checked it, then typed something really quick. That night, I couldn't sleep. I just laid there next to him feeling like I was sleeping next to someone I didn't even know anymore. That was just the beginning of the worst year of my life. After seeing that text, I started paying more attention to everything. Eric was going out, like, 3 to 4 nights a week at this point. Always had some excuse. Work event, guys' night, book club. He hadn't read a book in years. Whatever. I started keeping track of when he said he was working late and checking his location sometimes. Yeah. I know that's not great, but whatever. One night, he said he had a team building dinner downtown. His location showed him across town at this hotel. Could have been a legit work thing at a hotel conference room. Right? That's what I kept telling myself anyway. I started talking to him less and less. Kinda shut down emotionally, I guess. I was working longer hours, taking on more jobs, basically trying to stay busy so I wouldn't have to come home and see him getting all dressed up to go somewhere that probably wasn't where he said he was going. My buddy Jane called me one night when I was at a job site finishing up. "Hey, man. Isn't Eric supposed to be at some work conference this weekend?" she asked, sounding weird. "Yeah. In Cincinnati." "Why?" "Because I just saw his Instagram story. He's at that new rooftop bar downtown with Victor and some girls. Thought you should know." I checked his story and sure enough, there he was. Definitely not in Cincinnati. Definitely not at a work conference. I saved the video before he could delete it. When he came home Sunday night, he had all these stories about the conference, the speakers, the hotel, even brought me a stupid keychain as a souvenir. I just nodded and pretended to believe him. I felt sick to my stomach the whole time. I still didn't confront him, though. I wanted actual proof of cheating, not just lying about where he was. I needed to see it with my own eyes so there'd be no doubt, no way for him to twist things around and make me think I was crazy for suspecting him. We'd been together almost 10 years at that point, and I wasn't about to blow everything up without being 100% certain. When I made my move, I wanted all my facts straight, so he couldn't bullshit his way out of it. Things kept getting worse. He'd come home smelling like perfume that wasn't mine. There were unexplained charges on our joint credit card for restaurants and bars on nights he claimed to be just at Victor's watching movies. He'd get texts at weird hours and take his phone into the bathroom to reply. Meanwhile, Victor was always there, encouraging everything. He'd post photos of them out at clubs, tagging a bunch of girls I didn't know. Sometimes he'd come over to our place to pick Eric up and would barely acknowledge me, like I was the roommate, not the wife. One time I overheard Victor telling Eric, "You only live once, bro. Why settle for boring when you could have exciting? These girls are practically begging for your attention." Eric giggled and said, "Rachel doesn't suspect anything. She's too busy with work." That hurt more than I can explain. Not just that he was clearly doing stuff behind my back, but that he thought I was too stupid to notice and that he and Victor were laughing about it. I started to make a plan. Not to try to fix things, I was pretty sure we were beyond that point, but to protect myself for when everything inevitably blew up. I talked to a lawyer friend just to understand how divorce worked in our state. I started putting aside some money in a separate account. I documented the weird expenses, saved screenshots of his location not matching where he said he was, kept the Instagram stories that contradicted his lies. Then came the night that changed everything. Eric said he had to go to a storage unit we rented to get some winter clothes since the weather was getting colder. Said he'd be back in an hour. 3 hours later, still not home, not answering texts. I decided to drive to the storage place myself, partly to see if he was actually there, partly because I needed to get out of the house before I lost my mind. As I pulled up to the storage facility, I saw his car parked there. So he was actually where he said he'd be for once. I was about to turn around and go home when I saw him walking out. He wasn't alone. Some girl I'd never seen before was with him. Tall lady, fancy watch, expensive-looking jacket. They were laughing about something, standing really close to each other. Then she pulled him close and kissed him. Not a quick peck from a friend, but a full-on deep kiss that told me everything I needed to know. I felt like someone had just ripped my heart out through my throat. Part of me wanted to jump out and confront them, but something kept me frozen in my car. Eric got in his car, the girl got in hers, and they drove off in different directions. When he came home about an hour later, he had some story about how the storage unit was a mess, and it took forever to find the winter clothes. He even had a box of winter stuff with him as proof. I let him talk, nodding occasionally, wondering how many times he'd lied to my face like this. "How was your night?" he asked, not really caring about the answer. "Fine," I said. "Just watch some TV." He didn't even notice how quiet I was being, just went to take a shower, probably to wash off any evidence of what he'd been doing or who he'd been doing. I sat there on the couch trying to figure out what to do next. I had my proof now. The question was, what was I going to do with it? I spent the whole night thinking about what to do. I barely slept, just laid there listening to him breathing, wondering how someone could lie so easily day after day to someone they supposedly loved. After that night, I knew 100% I was done. No question about it. Just looking at him made my stomach turn. I didn't need to think about it or weigh my options. I was out. First thing the next morning, I called a divorce lawyer. Same lady my friend used when her husband cheated, made an appointment for that same week. Then I went straight to the bank and completely separated my finances. Moved my direct deposit to a new account he couldn't touch, took my name off our joint credit card, and withdrew exactly half of our savings to put in my new account. Left his half there, didn't want to screw him over financially, but wasn't about to let him spend my money on his girlfriends either. Every time he touched me or tried to act normal, I had to force myself not to physically recoil. The thought of him made an appointment for that same week. Then I went straight to the bank and completely separated my finances. Moved my direct deposit to a new account he couldn't touch, took my name off our joint credit card, and withdrew exactly half of our savings to put in my new account. Left his half there, didn't want to screw him over financially, but wasn't about to let him spend my money on his girlfriends either. Every time he touched me or tried to act normal, I had to force myself not to physically recoil. The thought of him with those other girls made me feel physically sick. I'd look at him and just see this stranger wearing a familiar face, someone I used to love who didn't exist anymore. But I played it cool. Didn't want him suspecting anything until I had everything lined up. Eric didn't suspect anything. He was too wrapped up in his own little world to notice I was making moves to leave. He kept going out, kept lying about where he was going, kept texting girls behind my back. I just let him do his thing while I prepared for the end. The next day, Victor showed up at our place unannounced. They were planning some weekend trip right in front of me, giggling about inside jokes. I heard Victor whisper, "Is Christina going to be there?" And Eric shushing him, looking over at me. Christina must be the girl from the storage unit, or maybe another one. Who knows how many there were at this point. That night, Eric went out again. Said it was a work happy hour. I didn't bother asking questions anymore. Around 2 a.m., he stumbled in, clearly wasted. "Where have you been?" I asked from the couch where I'd been sitting in the dark. He jumped, surprised to see me still up. "Jesus, Rachel. You scared me. Just out with people from work told you that." "That's weird, because I called your office earlier about that health insurance paperwork we needed." Jen said there was no happy hour planned. Eric's face changed that deer in headlights look before he recovered. Different department, marketing team thing. I just sat there, staring at him. This man who I'd spent nearly a decade with, who I thought I knew better than anyone in the world. All I felt was this weird sense of calm. Like, I was watching a movie of my life instead of actually living it. I thought about the first time we met, how his laugh made me feel all nervous and excited at the same time. Our first apartment with that broken heater we couldn't afford to fix. The way he used to bring me coffee in bed on weekends. All these memories flashing through my mind like they were from another lifetime. And now this. This stranger telling me obvious lies. This person who meant nothing to me anymore. "Something else you want to tell me, Eric?" I asked quietly. "What are you talking about?" He was getting defensive now. I saw you at the storage unit with her. His face went white. You were following me. Nope. Just needed to grab something myself and saw you by accident. Who is she? How long has this been going on? He started crying, but I could tell they weren't real tears. They were the manipulative kind. The ones designed to make me feel bad for catching him. It's not what you think, he sobbed. She's just a friend. You kiss all your friends like that? That's when his whole attitude changed. The tears stopped instantly. He stood up straighter, suddenly cold. Fine. Yes. I've been seeing other people. Several, actually. Victor helped me realize I've been wasting my youth tied down to one person. Do you know how many women would kill to be with me? I'm done living by your boring rules. He kept going, getting more cruel with each word. I've been seeing girls who make twice what you do, girls who don't bore me to death. So, yeah, I'm done living by your pathetic rules about marriage and commitment when I could be living my actual life. I just stood there staring at him. This man wearing my husband's face, saying these horrible things. In that moment, everything inside me went quiet. Does Victor tell you that? I asked quietly. That you're missing out? That women are lining up for you? Victor understands me. He knows what it's like to be desired, to have options, something you clearly don't get. I felt hollow, not even angry anymore, just empty. Like someone had scooped out everything inside me that made me who I was. The rage, the betrayal, the heartbreak, it was all there, but distant somehow. Like it was happening to someone else. He was still talking. Something about how everyone cheats and how that single word stopped him cold. He'd been expecting a fight. Tears, begging, anything but calm acceptance. What? He blinked like he hadn't heard me right. I grabbed my pre-packed bag. Yeah. I'd been ready for this. And headed for the door. Where are you going? He demanded, real panic creeping into his voice now. I paused with my hand on the doorknob, not even bothering to turn around. You told me plenty of women would love to have you. I let the words hang for a second before adding, good luck finding one who actually puts up with you, and I walked out. I stayed at Jane's place that night, told her everything. She let me crash on her couch and didn't judge me when I broke down crying at 3 a.m. Real friends show up when everything falls apart, and Jane's a real friend. The next morning, I called the divorce lawyer again and moved up our appointment. I wasn't interested in playing games or dragging things out. I just wanted out. Never thought I'd be 32 and starting over. Never thought the person I trusted most would be the one to destroy everything we built, but here we are. After that, things moved pretty fast. The lawyer I met with was this no-nonsense guy who'd seen it all before. He listened to my story, looked at the evidence I had, screenshots of Eric's location history not matching his stories, the saved Instagram posts, etc., and laid out a plan. I wasn't interested in taking Eric to the cleaners or anything. Just wanted a clean break. No kids, thankfully. No house together. We were still renting. Just some furniture and joint accounts to split up. My lawyer thought I was being too nice, but I told him I just wanted this over with as quickly and cleanly as possible. Eric seemed genuinely shocked when he got served with the divorce papers. I think he expected me to come crawling back, begging for another chance. Instead, I went no contact except through lawyers, blocked his number, blocked him on social media, told mutual friends I didn't want updates about him. I think that's what really got to him, that I could just walk away. His whole thing was thinking he had all the power, that he was the prize that everyone wanted. Me leaving without a fight didn't fit his narrative. He started calling from different numbers, showing up at job sites, even had his dad call me, we always got along well, to try to convince me to at least talk to Eric. I stayed firm, though. The damage was done. The legal process moved pretty quick. I let him keep more of our stuff than I probably should have. Most of the furniture didn't fight over the joint accounts even though I'd put in more. My lawyer thought I was being an idiot, but I just wanted Eric out of my life. Once the divorce was finalized, I did something that surprised even me. I texted his cousin Victor. Yeah. I know how that sounds, but hear me out. I wasn't interested in him romantically. I wanted answers. I invited him for coffee, and surprisingly, he agreed to meet. Why'd you do it? I asked once we were sitting down. Why'd you encourage Eric to cheat, to throw away our marriage? Victor had the decency to look uncomfortable. I didn't tell him to cheat. I just told him he was settling, that he could do better. Better than a wife who loved him? Who was faithful? Who was building a future with him? Look, he sighed. Eric was always jealous of me, of the attention I got, the freedom I had. When he started asking about my lifestyle, I just showed him, introduced him to some girls, took him to some clubs. What he did with that was his choice. I nodded, taking that in. You know what's funny, Victor? I always thought you were the cool one. But sitting here now, I just feel sorry for you. He looked startled. Excuse me? You're so busy collecting attention from girls who don't actually care about you that you've never experienced what real love feels like. So you had to destroy someone else's chance at it? Victor's face got all red. That's not I didn't. It's fine. I cut him off, standing up. I didn't ask you here to argue. I just wanted to understand, and now I do. As I turned to leave, he called after me. Eric's miserable, you know. Those girls he was seeing, none of them want anything serious with him. They just wanted what girls always want. I paused. That's not my problem anymore. But then things got weird. Victor started texting me after our coffee meetup. At first with "how are you doing" messages, then sending me memes, then getting flirtier. Instead of ignoring him like I planned to, I saw an opportunity. I had an idea. I started responding, playing it cool, but interested. We started talking regularly. I knew exactly what he was doing. He saw me as a challenge now. The girl who walked away from his cousin and didn't immediately worship him like every other chick. But what he didn't realize was that I was playing my own game. After a few weeks of texting, I invited Victor over to my new place for drinks. He showed up wearing this tight shirt. I played my part, complimented him, laughed at his jokes, touched his arm when talking. The next morning, I accidentally left my location sharing on. When I took him to breakfast at this place, I knew Eric always went to on Saturdays. Made sure to sit by the window. Sure enough, Eric walked in, saw us together, and froze. The look on his face was, well, exactly what I was hoping for. Confusion, then shock, then this weird mixture of anger and hurt that I'd never seen before. He turned around and practically ran out. Victor noticed and got this smug look. Guess Eric's seeing what he lost, he said, clearly enjoying his cousin's pain. I just shrugged like I didn't care. But inside, I was thinking, now you know how it feels. Within hours, Eric was blowing up my phone. Dozens of texts ranging from furious, "How could you sleep with my cousin?" to devastated, "Of all people, why him?" to pathetic, "I made a mistake. Please talk to me." I didn't respond to any of them. Victor and I kept seeing each other for about a month. Nothing serious, just casual dates that I made sure Eric would find out about. I'd pick Victor up from work when I knew Eric might see. We'd show up together at places where mutual friends would be. I even posted a few pics of us on Instagram knowing Eric would see them. Was it petty? Hell yes. After all, his talk about how replaceable I was, watching him melt down because I was with his cousin felt like justice. Victor thought he was in control the whole time, but really, I was using him exactly how he'd used Eric to destroy our marriage. And honestly, Victor was shallow as hell. Couldn't talk about anything except other people's drama or himself. After about a month, when I was sure Eric had fully gotten the message, I ended things with Victor. We were at dinner, and he was going on about how his Instagram followers had increased since we started hanging out. "Look," I interrupted. "This isn't working for me anymore." He looked genuinely shocked. "What? Why? Things are going great." "They're really not. We want different things." His face hardened. "Is this because of Eric? Has he been talking to you?" "No," I said honestly. "This is because you're exactly like him. Shallow, self-centered, and obsessed with what other people think. I needed to see that for myself, and now I have. So thanks for the clarity." The look on his face was priceless. Nobody had ever dumped him before, especially not with the truth. After that, I focused on myself completely, threw myself into my business, which was growing faster than I could handle sometimes, started hitting the gym regularly, not to look good for someone else, but because it helped clear my head. Reconnected with old friends I'd lost touch with during my marriage. A few weeks after I dumped Victor, I met a gorgeous guy, I'll call him Alex, at a client's housewarming party. He was the stunning redhead who immediately caught my eye, but what really got me was how different he was from Eric and Victor. When people talked, he actually listened. He asked real questions and cared about the answers. He laughed at jokes because they were funny, not to get attention. We hit it off right away. Started dating, taking it slow. He was everything Eric wasn't: confident without being arrogant, independent without being selfish, handsome without needing constant validation from strangers, from mutual friends who couldn't help gossiping. I heard Eric was struggling. I guess he found out that he's not so killed for as he thought. The girl he'd been seeing disappeared once they got what they wanted. His fabulous single life was just a bunch of hangovers and ghostings. He'd even gotten in trouble at work for sleeping with clients. Meanwhile, Victor had moved on to some rich older lady and barely talked to Eric anymore. But, honestly, I didn't care about either of them. Their drama seemed so small and pointless now. I was too busy building something real with someone who actually deserved my time, and life was actually good for once. Work was taking off. I had an amazing man who actually respected me, and I was finally feeling like myself again. Then one Friday evening, everything almost got derailed. Alex and I were making dinner together when someone started pounding on the front door. When I opened it, Eric was standing there looking like a mess. Unwashed hair, Baggy clothes, puffy eyes. What are you doing here? I asked. How do you even know where I live? Jane's husband told me, he mumbled. Rachel, please. I just need to talk to you. There's nothing to talk about. You need to leave. I started to close the door. He literally got down on his knees in the doorway. Please, I'm begging you. I made the biggest mistake of my life. I've lost everything, my job, my friends. Victor doesn't even talk to me anymore. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I miss you so much it physically hurts. That's not my problem, Eric. Tears were streaming down his face now. I know it's not. But please, if what we had ever meant anything to you, just give me 5 minutes. 5 minutes to explain. I've been in therapy. I understand now why I did what I did. I was insecure and stupid and God, Rachel. I'd do anything to take it back. He was full on sobbing now, still on his knees. It was honestly pathetic and uncomfortable to watch. Eric, get up. This isn't going to work. Before I could get him to leave, Alex came to the door. There was this weird moment where they just stared at each other. You must be Eric, Alex said politely. I'm Alex. Eric ignored his hand. Who the fuck are you? He's my boyfriend, I said. He lives here. Eric's mouth dropped open. Lives here? It's been less than a year since our divorce, and you've already moved someone in? You said I was easily replaceable, I reminded him. Alex went back to the kitchen while I stepped outside to talk to Eric. I fucked up, Rachel, Eric said, tearing up. I know that now. I was stupid and selfish. I didn't value what we had. Cool realization, but too late. I never found what I was looking for with those other girls. None of them cared about me. I didn't appreciate your loyalty. Is there a point to this visit? I want another chance, he blurted out. We had 10 years together. That has to mean something. I actually laughed. Are you serious? You think I want to get back with you? With him, Eric gestured toward the house. Someone you've known for what? A few weeks? He's the best thing that's happened to me in years. Eric's voice got louder. We were together for 10 years. You can't just replace a decade-long relationship in a couple of months. Apparently, I can, I said coldly. When Alex came to check on the food, Eric lost it. So you just move this model into your life and pretend our marriage never happened? I'm a landscape architect, Alex corrected calmly. I don't give a fuck what you are, Eric shouted. You're nothing but a rebound. She was with me for 10 years. And you destroyed it, I cut in. You cheated with multiple girls. You told me any woman could replace me. Well, you were wrong. I wasn't the replaceable one. You were. He looked stunned. You don't mean that. I do mean it. Those 10 years ended when you decided other women were more important than our marriage. He turned to Alex. Has she told you everything? About sleeping with my cousin? He's told me everything. Alex said simply, we don't have secrets. I took Alex's hand. Don't come here again, Eric. As we turned to go inside, Eric started screaming. I closed the door on whatever else he was going to say. Through the door, we could hear him sobbing before he finally drove away. For days after, Eric tried contacting me through different numbers and accounts. I ignored all of it. That chapter of my life was closed. After all that, I proposed to Alex. We're getting married next spring. As for Eric, he moved back to his hometown. Victor got engaged to some rich older lady and doesn't talk to Eric anymore. Looking back, I've learned some tough lessons. When your husband starts acting shady, don't make excuses for him. Someone who can be talked into betraying you probably wasn't worth keeping anyway. And being single is way better than being with someone who makes you feel worthless. So thanks for the life lessons, Eric. That's my story, Reddit. If you're going through something similar, hang in there. It gets better. Edit. Thanks for all the responses. To answer common questions, 1. Yes. Alex knows about the Victor thing. He said it was understandable, but kinda gross. 2. No. I don't feel bad about how I handled Eric showing up. 3. Eric wasn't always like this. People either change or show their true colors eventually. 4. Haven't heard from Eric directly since. A friend said he's dating someone in his hometown now. That's all for today. Make sure to like, subscribe and comment advice for the OP.